Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm really excited to welcome our next presenter, Rachelle Jonck. She will be doing master classes after the break today, and a lot of what she's talking about now informs that session later today. Most of us know Rachelle for years and years and years, and it's really a pleasure to have her here. So welcome, Rachelle.
Hi, everybody. Okay, is this thing working? I put on pants so that this thing could sit here, but then there was no right outfit for today. So it's great to be here. A huge thank you to Nats for bringing me back to my alma mater. I apologize to all the Cape Townians and South Africans for my screwed up English accent, because after almost 25 years in the States, I have adopted some vowels like glass that I swore I would never adopt. But you can be sure that nobody in America thinks that I sound like an American. They all think that I'm like a South African. So I don't know, my accent is somewhere in the ocean. That's a Zwischenfach accent, there you go. Oh, I'm going to abolish the Fach system, but that's for another lecture. It's great to be here. I want to extend a special welcome to the people who are my guests today, and I put them here so that I kind of ignore them. But many of you know many of them. My mother, I always say, is more famous in South Africa than I am, because she had children's choirs until she retired at age 79. So she cannot go into a shopping center without people going like, Mrs. Jonck, Mrs. Jonck. So nobody knows who I am, but everybody knows my mother. And then when I went to high school, I went to DF Milan, and I went there to study with Donnie Smith, who is not only a fantastic piano teacher, but had a great choir there. And I remember that I learned from Donnie that a voice that stands out in a choir is a beautiful thing. Like, it was the first time that people were like, why would you put that voice in a choir? It's going to stand out. And Donnie would be like, why wouldn't you want it to stand out? It's a beautiful voice. We'll never forget it. And last but not least, I'm thrilled that Akama Fook is here. Many of you know her. She was the very famous and fantastic director of the Stellenbosch University Choir. And in January, I will be presenting at the Nats Winter Workshop in New York. And I'm going to do 3 sessions. And one of those sessions is literally after Akama, who my first day here, when I went to audition to be in her choir, and I was mostly a pianist, but I sang in the Tygerberg Children's Choir with people like Thomas sang in that choir as well. But I sang, and Akama was like, no, you can't sing in the choir like this because you must sing legato. And so that talk is going to be The Voice is Not a Piano, because she is the first person who really opened my eyes to how certain musical concepts can be misunderstood between instrumentalists and voice and singers, and how we have to really learn about terminology. I have a long, fast-paced thing. You have 2 hours of master classes with me this afternoon, so you will be tired of me by 4 o'clock, I'm sure. So if we don't have a lot of time for questions and answers, I'm happy to talk to you then, and I'm also happy to talk over tea. I'd rather spend a little more time through the presentation, which is a lot of basic stuff. The work that I'm going to be talking about is really for singers of all levels. It is for amateurs, it is for young students in schools, it is for professionals, because it is much akin to the work that we do, let's say, in a yoga class, where people of different ability can take the same class, and depending on your expertise, you can express a pose in different ways, right? But we can all do it together. It's the same as ballet bar class. The prima ballerina and the corps de ballet can all go, because what do? They practice their plie. I had ballet, I think, for 1 year. But everybody, all ballerinas still practice plie every morning, because that's the basics of their trade. And I'm trying to bring that back into singing. I think that we have gotten onto all kinds of interesting things, and sometimes we lose touch with the basics, and that's really what this is about. Please take as many pictures as you want and post them wherever you want for this session. This information is free, and it is not stuff that I made up. It is stuff that I found on the internet and through study. And so you can find it yourself, so why can't you take a picture of it? So what I did for you, I just curate a little, but everything you will see here today will be available on IMSLP or elsewhere on the internet. Of course, there's some personalized things that I adapted to make it simpler to understand the exercises, but those are already for free on the internet at Bel Canto Boot Camp as well. I miss my partner, Derek Goff, whom I work with a lot and is the co-founder of Bel Canto Boot Camp with me. I'm thrilled to have Philip, because Derek is the one who always makes everything work so that I don't have to worry. So I was a little angstful, but I have Philip today. Yes, indeed. Hi, Philip. I will also inspire you to do these exercises as we have time together, and maybe this afternoon in the masterclass. There's a lot of interesting new research that NATS member Amelia Rawlings-Bigler, she's in the States, and at this very moment, she is hosting the first conference on group voice pedagogy, which I am very, very interested in. I think that it is a modern Western idea that in order to build your voice, you have to do it one-on-one with a teacher. I think that there are many, many ways to build voice in a group, and I think that it has many advantages for singers. It allows singers to work together and not feel so isolated. And we all know how isolating a singing career can be, and how competitive and working with other people really makes that such a better experience. Because a lot of the work that I do is based in history, I have an added interest in it, because historically that was the origin of voice teaching. All voice teaching in the beginning was done as part of musicianship training. So you learned harmony and counterpoint, solfege, how to ornament, all of these things together, and then you sang, and then the teacher was like, no, don't sing so through your nose. It's like when you sing, oh, no, don't do that. So it was very much this idea that we have to hone each voice is a very modern idea that I wish that we can kill. And I think that if we train skills basically for people, then every voice will shine. This idea that we have to train every voice in its specific way is, I think, the thing that makes people in the end all sound alike. So when you see, I'm talking about Bel Canto, but I have this thing, I have this bee in my bonnet about the unamplified voice, and you will also, you're not hearing? There's a boom. Praat ek te hard? Nee? Philip, kan jy kyk? Dankie. Okay, Philip werk daaraan. What was I saying? Oh, unamplified voice, or the unplugged singer, I call it. And I, in my research, go even further and think about the unplugged artist or the unplugged human, and how we are different before and after the microphone, and how we communicate with each other is different before and after the microphone. And a lot of the Bel Canto style is really about training a voice to amplify itself. That is its sole basic purpose, that before the advent of the microphone, voices had to be built to be heard in large spaces over orchestras. Okay, so let's get going. Let me see if everything works. So here we have some of these topics I will just touch on, and in other years we can talk about it more. The classical unplugged singer during history, the concept of the singer and the composer has consistently moved further and further apart. While on the other side, the singer, songwriter, jazz musician, pop star, we often don't have any idea who composed that music. We perceive that if you see a picture of Taylor Swift, you're like, okay, she wrote most of those songs or co-wrote. There's no you don't know the director, you don't know anything. You're just like Taylor Swift, right? And but that is not true for the classical singer. The problem really is that this has been happening over time. So we will often say, oh, Western music, it has to be just so. You have to do it exactly what's on the page. So urtext, werkstrooie, the work as Bible, the composer as God. That is where Western music found itself in the 20th century, where this idea of separation and the composer is going to tell you exactly what to do is at the order of the day. But in the bel canto era, the further you go back in time, the less that was true, and the more the singer was a co-composer. What do we mean by that? There was melodic freedom. Singers ornamented. They didn't only sing the pitches that was on the stage, on the score. They sang cadenzas. They had rhythmic freedom. I can do, and I did with my colleague Stephen Tharp, a whole thing about rubato, about how much freer singers used to be 80 years ago. If you listen, and hopefully we have time to end with one pretty wild recording of rubato. Singers were much more free. The notation was inexact. Now we have people writing 7/16 bars and 5/8 bars to like create some to make us crazy. Because here's the deal, I don't mind rhythmically complicated music if it sounds rhythmically complicated. But if you write a 7/18 bar, and I cannot tell at the performance that the singer and the orchestra were pulling their hair out, because it's not rhythmic. It's just difficult, and it's just prescription. So what I'm going to try and help you do, in a way, is to look at the music of the past and say, what eyes were they looking with? What is the singer's skill set? I love thinking about things in wholes. So we will talk mostly about vocal skills today, but this musicianship thing, being musical, being a good musician, being as good as the pianists in harmony and counterpoint, all of those things is a big part of a singer. There is this thing called style, like how do we read different music from different times? And then, of course, you have lingual skills. And I'm always interested in seeing how they come together. It's very important, if you listen to me or work with me, to think, I really believe that technique is the vehicle of expression. I really believe that the vast majority of singers who are stymied from saying what's in their heart, 80% is because they don't have the technical ability to sing it. It's not so much that they're scared, it's that they can't, right? You imagine a perfect phrase, but you don't have the skill to do it. For those of you who think there's another thing, there's the singing artist, and that is the purple circle. I'm doing new research on this topic with Chuck Hudson in August, who is a mime artist. And that is the body of the artist, right? Because we say that the visual aspect of our art form, whether you talk about song or opera or anything, the visual should reinforce what it is we hear in the perfect world, yeah? You see some of these weird productions, you're like, that has nothing to do with what I hear, but that's another topic. So my great friend Conrad Osborne, who wrote a fantastic book that's this big, I don't think anybody has actually read all of it. I did not say that out loud. This is actually not from the book, it's from an article that he wrote in 1979, and he says the job of the singing actor remains the same, to persuade us that if circumstances were as represented, the character would behave as represented. And that is the basis. But so I'm just telling you, I know that thing exists, but that's not what we're talking about today. So, how do we know what we know? Very important, because a singer's life is basically a horror of opinions. Everywhere you go, somebody has an opinion. Sing it like this. No, why don't you sing it like this? Oh no, the maestro wants it like this. Even within a school, one coach wants it this way, another coach wants it another way. And that is why we build our philosophy on 3 pillars called read, listen, and sing. And all singers should be doing this, or some combination of these things all the time. So I put in bold the things that we will touch on most today. That is treatises. Before there were recordings, people were writing about how people did things because there was no other way to spread that knowledge. And there's a lot of stuff that we can learn from it. The anthologies of the past, we will not see that today, but if I ever come back and we really talk about style mostly, I will show you a lot of that. There are about 500 of these, what I call the Schirmer anthologies of the past, right? So if you're a singer, you have this anthology and you wrote your notes and your teacher wrote something and there are notes on it. Of these in the old days, the teachers, many of them Italian, everybody gets it that the Italian teachers were teaching all over the world, right? They were teaching in Italy, in London, in New York, in Paris, huge Italian tradition, and that was the school. Like the Italian school of singing was the school. It is the thing that grabbed people's attention. And they made books of arias that they were teaching to singers. And the singers compiled it like in your binder, in your semester binder, right? And those are fascinating because we can learn from them many different things. The editions, so we can learn from how people edited things in those years, what they thought was the right way to edit, and we can see pencil markings on them. Makes you think, in 300 years, when somebody looks at your Schirmer anthology, what will they see? Will they think that you were a sophisticated musician, or will they be like, what the hell? We will listen to recordings today, and that is why this presentation is on the long side, because it is important to listen. It is completely useless asking a singer to sing in a way that they are not familiar with orally. That is how we learn. That is how you learn to speak, by hearing your mother say words and you say it. If you are listening to people singing in a way that you are not being taught, there is no way for you to make that connection. And what we will really discover is how differently people used to sing than many people are singing today. I am not saying that everybody who sings today are bad. But what I'm saying is that as we go back in history, the basic systems of teaching were very, very consistent, and the exercises were very simple. And in the earliest recordings, you can hear an oral explanation of what you were reading 200 years ago. So if you think from a historical perspective, I couldn't record, so I wrote. Then at some point, those people, there was a generation where the people who were being taught by those people were just old enough to, when recordings came in, that they could be recorded. And when we get familiar with that, we really start to get into the past. We can have many conversations about why that's important. For me, the most important thing is the microphone, because a lot of the new ways of singing is connected intrinsically to the microphone. And I love all the new ways of singing, but we have to understand that that falls what now we call media arts. That is art that cannot happen without media. We are trying to do art that does not include speakers, that is a direct conversation between me and you. My voice is going directly to you, not through a speaker. And the rules that govern those things, just by the pure physicality, are different. Live performances, which we will not listen to today, but we will, actually we will, after the break. Then we sing, exercises, repertoire. I do a lot of research about vocalises. I implore the teachers to bring vocalises back, not only in your teaching, but also in your syllabus. I would love for schools to bring vocalises back. It is a way for singers to practice basics and be called. held responsible. As pianists, we have to play octaves and thirds, and we have our basic things. I want to bring singers back to that. I'm tired of singers not knowing how to get better at whatever they need to get better at. They just don't know. They're like, oh, everybody says my legato needs to get better. How? Okay, hopefully I can show you. Okay. Ons gaan slaap. Oh. Okay, vocal skill set. I, in my life, have broken things down in many different ways, but this is my favorite way because it's simple and you can remember. What are the things you can do on one note? You can practice onset and sustained tones. You can explore laryngeal registration, which we will do a little of together. You can sing a messa di voce, that is, you can explore dynamics on one note, and you can trill. We are not going to talk a lot about trill today. In the Lord's name, a vocal trill is not singing 2 notes faster and faster. I don't care how many famous singers on YouTube are telling you that. It's fake news. It is not true. Why do I know that? Because García says, if you sing 2 notes faster and faster, it's all written, I'm telling you I can prove it. He says that will only ever be the setup or the end of a trill. The trill itself is, let's call it unruly oscillation of the larynx. Unstable larynx creates the trill. That thing that you spend your entire life to like not do, stabilizing the larynx without holding it, blah, blah, blah. In order to trill, that larynx has to move wildly. So we can say, if we turn a doorknob like this, I can go faster and faster, but I can only go so fast. But if I go like this, I can go much faster. So it's an uncontrolled motion. We will not talk much about it. 2 notes, portamento, legato, oh Lord, so many things to say about that. How those things are attached to each other, and we will get there. And then, how do you sing many notes? That is agility. So, on some of these I will spend more time, and some of them I will go quickly. The idea for this talk today is to really open your mind to this idea of read, listen, sing. That you can do your own research. Just don't like get stuck on one thing and be like, oh, well, my teacher said this. Okay, I shouldn't say that. You should believe what your teacher said. But you should also learn what came before so that you have the context to understand. And so you must read, listen, and sing. So, for example, onset and sustained tones, we can say that is a vocal skill. I call this the emotional tone. I never allow a singer to sing at any technical exercise without what I call emotional tone. That is, if you do your technical word like, even if you try to make the best sound, it's not useful because you have to be alive. So I pressure my singers to stay in emotional tone in all exercises. That way they don't have to change their minds about how to sing when they go on the stage. So sustained tones in style is called force égale. And I want to implore everybody to go back to singing long notes at one dynamic. You'd be surprised how hard it is to sing 8 seconds of one note at one dynamic. Our students are inundated with like musicality, and they're like 15 crescendos and 17 diminuendos in every phrase. And you think it's very musical, but it's not musical. It's shitty music making. Don't do that. Keep it simple. But if, I know, I will not say anything worse than shitty, I promise. If you don't have control over your dynamics, you cannot make a phrase, a classically good phrase, and if you can't make a phrase, you cannot actually bring your musicianship over to there, and then we're back to the microphone people. Right? Because you can feel anything here over a microphone. I'm not talking against microphone styles. I'm just saying they have expressive options because their voice is amplified and go through electronic stuff. That does not happen to your voice. Lingually, of course, when you sing a long tone, you're also practicing your vowels. Okay, I know I'm already behind. So, read. What can we read about legato? So, this is onset exercises from 3 different treatises, Mengozzi, Cinti d'Amaro, Marchesi. You will see that they are all numbered 1. That is the first exercise in all of the treatises. And I am sad to say that most singers, the first exercise they do when they wake up in the morning is, oh, right? And then like, I can't, my vibrato, I can't find my voice. Like, this will make you find your voice. Okay, so I'm not going to talk a lot about like what a good onset is because everybody has their ideas. García says inhalation, glottal closure, initiation of phonation, and that achieves the evenness of tone. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. That can be a workshop all on its own. This skill was mastered before attempting a musical phrase. It was referred to as the great scale by singers like Lili Lehmann. Lili Lehmann believed if you didn't feel good in the morning, but you sang a 2-octave scale of long notes, and it didn't feel good, then you should just do it again in an hour, and in another hour, and eventually you will find your voice and you will be able to sing at night. Most people no longer practice the grand scale. Violinists practice it. Long notes, it is part of lots of work that is done in instruments, and it should be done by the voice as well. I had one of my tenors, I was teaching an online class the other day, and I was talking about the great scale. He wrote me back, he was like, how many seconds is each note supposed to be? And I was like, I don't know, like long-ish, right? No, he was like, I can't remember. He was like, I went for 15 seconds. I almost passed out by the end of the contest too. I was like, okay, don't pass out. But you'd be surprised how hard this exercise is, but how incredibly useful. Okay. For some singers, it's easier to start with multiple onsets because paralysis by analysis, oh no, that was bad. It can be hard to do that exercise, but many people can do better if they sing ha, 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 because they just kind of get the cobwebs out, okay? And this is the force égale, the equal dynamic of the son soutenu. I beg teachers to bring force égale back into teaching. The musicality will come when the student has control of dynamic. Okay, I forgot to actually look at this thing, which tells me what comes out next. I'm kind of blind here. Okay, so this is where I want to spend the most time, laryngeal registration. I'm going to try and go quickly because a lot of stuff has to happen here. What is laryngeal registration? So for the voice scientists in the room, pedagogues, let's first look at to the right. You may see the following terms which refer to the same things. Chest voice, modal voice, thick folds, thyroarytenoid dominance, mix, mode 1. Or you can see head voice, loft, thin folds, cricothyroid dominance, mix, mode 2. You see that I put mix in both of those? Because when people are singing, oh, they'll be like, oh, it's mixed. And then we're like, oh, they're like, oh, it's mixed. Right? So mode 1 and mode 2 is, in the old days, were called chest voice and head voice. We made mode 1 and mode 2 because the scientists were like, that's not really a good description. And actually, in fact, I think it's a pretty good description. Because when you sing in your chest voice, oh, like we heard so beautifully the choir do, right? Great integration. Oh, 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 oh. And this is what I call really functional training, to just feel where that is. If we do, and often do B flat and E flat, please remember non-treble voices, guys. This pitch, not octave down. You're going to do on M, and you're going to see if you can feel, men are going to go into falsetto, non-treble voices falsetto, and we're going to go mode 1 to mode 2. You're not trying to make an operatic sound, you are just trying to feel the laryngeal tilt. Sounds like the police coming. Good. Now, let's do it here. Now, can you do once with tilt, once without tilt? So the second time, the note will stay in chest voice. Once tilt, once not tilt. I do this with my singers. So what is this? This is like laryngeal tilt. Most people will feel that when they're in mode 1 in chest voice, that the larynx is in this position, and most people call it rocked back, and then tilt forward. If you know Julia Child, yeah, have you ever seen America? This works well in America because everybody knows Julia Child. So Julia Child speaks in both mode 1 and mode 2 because it's a condition. The larynx is unstable, right? So her larynx is just wiggling from one to the other. Like maybe you have a grandmother who speaks like this as well, and you need to have control over that, unlike Julia Child, who had no control. So we do this with our hands for chest. Hard already. Tilt. Don't tilt. I have singers who sing at the Metropolitan Opera that it takes like 3 weeks to get them to do that because their larynxes are conditioned to stay in tilt. They sing only in head voice. They have trained their voices not to break. They're like, no, I don't want to break, yeah? I don't want to. But we say every note is mixed or blended because if you sing with an organized tone, every mode 1 note has some head voice in it, and every mode 2 note has some chest voice in it. So I say mix schmix. I don't talk about mix, it's just confusing. Everything is mixed. In some way, everything is mixed, so I think it's simpler to stay with that. Oops, I went too fast. Garaudè, is this where I am? No, sorry. Garaudè says the perfect and imperceptible meeting of the different registers of the voice form an essential part. The last note of chest dominance and the first of head dominance, or vice versa, have to be connected naturally and effortlessly in a manner that one would not notice the change. He does not say so that the change will disappear. It does not say it will disappear. No, none of them say that it will disappear. They all say it is your job to blend them, not to make register number 3, but to make you able to go from register 1 to 2. Viardot, page 1. This is Inaugural, the famous 1-hour practice of Pauline Viardot. Full chest voice without straining. She starts on B flat, long notes. You see she goes up to the second page. The F must be able to be sung in head or chest voice. Oh, it's chest, all right, my C fell off. And you see there's a little thing around F4. And then you run in fausset, head voice, or falsetto, what she calls, above that. This F4 fulcrum is true for all human voices. I find it one of the most beautiful things about the human voice, that whether we are treble or non-treble voices, we have this fulcrum. This is García. You will see that he starts on one note. This is what we call switching. Can you sing that note in head and chest voice? You'll see that by number 4, he actually does some version of what we did. And he says you do it faster and faster. You see that my arrows always go to F? All of the exercises culminate in F4 in chest voice. That is a good second to minor third higher than what is traditionally taught in most countries, including this one and America. When I say sing up to F4 in chest voice, people are like, are you crazy? Like, no, I'm like, we still have the same vocal folds. Like we don't have different voices, yeah? They did these exercises. I'm showing this to show that F4 was the norm and not an outlier. You can see that you will see blue notes that are chest voice notes by Garaudè all the way up to G. This is for sopranos, treble voices. They did include exercises up to G, and here we have some examples of where it's needed in, I just worked in Northwest University with Conrad's students. Il fantasma. You cannot sing G flat, F4 and sound terrified in head voice. It will not happen. It's not a thing. Gunnar must have been an idiot to write forte on that note if he didn't think it was going to be sung in chest voice. The same with Mama, what's this song? Mama rencontre rassemblement. Famous examples of repertoire, end of Santuzza's aria. For the voice scientists, this is what it looks like when we put it in voce vista. It's called auditory roughness. That term was coined by Ian Hall. The tone sounds rough. Yeah. When we put it in, this is a spectrogram of E flat 4, and you will see there where the partials are boosted. That is where it's in chest voice. So that's the same note in chest voice and head voice that looks different. So if you have a student who likes learning with voce vista, you can make them sing into the microphone, and this helps them. Cook. Okay, so I'm going to play examples. I made slides with notes on it so that I don't have to talk and I don't have to waste time. So I'm just going to go through them. These are all examples of recordings of treble voices making the switch between mode 1 and mode 2. You see their names and the years it was recorded. Leave that for a second to look at, right? So she can sing so, well, by sweetening the chest voice, she can make it match the head voice. Modern people will be like, oh, she's just in mix. No, she's in chest and head, but she has been trained to make them sound mixed to you. But that's not what's happening in her throat. Try to feel in your own throat what happens when you sing voy, voy, voy. I am a firm believer. This is where the voice breaks. It is the most emotional part of the voice. If we train this out of our singers, we are asking them to express emotions in ways that the composers did not imagine for them to do. That is solid chest voice. I can sing, yes, right? It's friggin' amazing. It's friggin' amazing what these people could do. But they could do it. They were fantastic singers, but there are 1,000 examples. We are building Bel Canto Boot Camp, hopefully at NATS next year in Knoxville, if everything goes well. We are going to roll out a database of YouTube and other publicly available videos that will be curated so that you'll be able to search it, because while it's amazing that you can hear everything, YouTube is a hellhole of everything. Sue Smith's like freshman recital. You know, how do you know? How do you know? So we're going to make an open source one, hopefully, and we're going to ask the whole community to contribute to that. Now in your freshman or in your master's jury, somebody's going to be like, oh, why would you sing that note in that crude chest voice? No, this is all to say that in these old days, they accepted this. Now let me tell you, every singer that sings that E flat 4 in chest likes singing the secondo passaggio more. Because you feel the freedom. By the time of the aria, you're like, your larynx is in your nostrils, yeah? So, some people say to me, well, the recording equipment makes it sound more crude. It's possible, right? Because these are very old recordings. That's another session. Also, hopefully at Knox, in Knoxville, I'll bring my partner, Stephen Tharp. We have a proposal pending all about just listening to old voices. I mean, come on. Oh, it's like this is like you feel the emotion in the song. We all understand that emotion. Sometimes when I talk to my singers, I'm like, I want you to feel this. And if you keep trying to explain that, you can even talk about technical things, you want to cry because you feel extremely vulnerable when you're like, allow your voice to do this. People are like, Callas was an actress. That's why she was an actress. Because she knew how to sing. She could not do that if her voice was not trained in this tradition. Like the recordings is so much more fun than me talking. I'm going to skip through some stuff because I want to make sure we listen to all the recordings. Listen to this. Feel in your throat. So good. Some of them are in this voice and some of them are in this voice. Yeah, it's like her voice, her larynx is conditioned. Tenors, the same thing. Remember that tenors sang with more head voice than they typically do now? Did the same exercises. They look the same. They made different exercises for the different voice groups. But if you really look at them, they're pretty much the same. Okay, this is going to blow your mind. I will just play it without That is, you can only do that if you spend your days practicing that kind of, because he can do that. He has the understanding. You feel how it's the same for treble and non-treble voices? I'm so interested in this topic when I think about teaching trans voices. This idea that the voice is the human voice is a continuum, and that we are all much more alike than we think. The tenors I play are all Russian. I don't know what was in the water in Russia in this time. They all sing arias that are not Russian. They all sing it in Russian. Please stop being so stupid about like wanting to not sing things in translation. Oh, Rachelle, I have to coach Carmen, but it's in English. I'm like, oh, for once you will understand it and the people who you're singing for. I hate that people are so purist about it. In these days, everybody sang in their language. All the operas were performed in the languages. In America, we have one company, St. Louis, who is still holding out. And I saw their bosses the other day, and they were like, well, we're thinking, and I was like, in the Lord's name, don't step away from the model. We need more of this. Astonishing singing. Astonishing singing. And these people were not Iron Men. They were just trained in a very specific way that allowed them to do this. Oh, cook. It's very close to falsetto, but your gut is telling you that it still has a core of chest in it. I'm going to go fast. At some point, I will show you the rest of the slideshow. So this is how we isolate. First, we isolate registers by doing yodel exercises. I do this often with my singers. So we made different versions, but if you know the sound of music, you can sing with me. High on a hill was a lonely goat, right? So I tell my singers always, if you're nervous at the Metropolitan Opera and you're like, everybody's listening to me, because singers are crazy there. Because they really, people go like this at the doors to listen to everybody practicing. I was like, if you sing High on a Hill was a lonely goat, people will just be like, you're funky. So, but that helps a singer understand. And then we try to unify the registers by doing the switching exercises. We don't have time to do them. But for example, making you stay in that voice. I'm very good at it because I practice it a lot, because most singers who come to me suck at it. Thus, I have an apartment in New York. So if you get good at these skills, you can make yourself into an amazing, I already talked about, well, let's just take a moment to say, why did this stop? And again, I always blame the microphone. If you sing on a close microphone with this kind of transition, it sounds much cruder than when you are sitting in a house. So if you are singing over your iPhone, and people are like, oh no, that transition is terrible. Again, I'm pleading with the teachers. We allow students the time, the years to get better at many skills. But when a singer's chest voice sounds, you're like, no, don't do that. And instead of trying to help them to modify, hitting the laryngeal, and helping them get better at transversing this break, we take it out. Because we're like, no, that's too crude. If we can allow our young singers the time to get better at Italian, we can allow them the time to get better at chest voice. Amen. Okay. I'm just going to skip. Messa di voce, much to say about crescendo and diminuendo. You have to understand that laryngeal registration is connected to crescendo and diminuendo. The louder you sing, the more chest voice you have in the note. The softer you sing, the more head voice you have in the note. Somehow people don't get this. I often ask people, so how do you get louder? Like famous singers. I'm not talking about 18-year-olds. Then they go, the breath? Like, okay, what about the breath? Like, more breath? It's like, okay, how do you sing softer? Less breath? No, also more breath? Well, then it can't just be the breath. And so the point is that it has to do with the laryngeal sweetening. Again, voice science can tell us all kinds of things about it. When you tell a singer, sing chest voice, tilt the larynx towards, people are like, you can't control. Of course you can control it. It's muscles. It is muscles that make that happen. You absolutely can control it. You have to just learn. Historically, again, pleading with teachers, if you say dynamics is like for the coach, you're not teaching. Let me be very honest. The world is full of voice teachers being like, those coaches are teaching voice. Stop teaching voice. Like if a singer comes into my studio and they can only sing in one dynamic, I have to teach them how to sing dynamics. And then the same teacher is like, oh no, I don't like the appoggiatura there. I'm like, that's coaching, leave that to me. So if you really want to make that division, then we have to really understand that dynamics is part of voice teaching. We often ask people to go from mezzo piano to mezzo forte first. I'm always trying to make it fun. This is my rocking horse that goes from all the way down. And so you can think how much you can tilt or not tilt your larynx. Portamento, so many things to say. First, the voice before the microphone was different, all voices, including speaking voices.
I will arise and go now and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. 19 rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the veils of the morning.
Okay, I have 1 minute. That seems weird to you, but to somebody who has never seen a microphone and other people, that is not weird. What do we have? I'm skipping because I obviously had 2 hours worth of stuff. I'm sorry, that wasn't the idea. You can listen to all of it. As contrast, this is what people sound like now when famous people read poetry. I left out the name because it's sad.
Luke Havergal by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Go to the western gate, Luke Havergal, there where the vines cling crimson on the wall, and in the twilight wait for what will come. The leaves will whisper there of her, and some, like flying words, will strike you as they fall.
If you really
But go,
carry this poem
and if you
on
listen,
voice
she
in
will
song,
call. Go to the western gate, Luke
it has to
Havergal.
play.
Luke Havergal.
This is not a bad actor. It's just he's used to like having his gravitas. His gravitas is going into a microphone, you know, and like a lots of reverb makes him sound very important. But Yeats had never heard of such a thing.
Go to the western gate, Luke Havergal. on the wall, and in the twilight wait for what will come. Go to the western gate, look ever gone. The leaves will whisper there of her, and some, like flying words, will strike you as they fall.
So, what we did not talk, I love that voice so much. Can you hear how he sings legato through the consonants, including portamento? Go to the western gate, Luca, western gate, look. It's a completely different way of singing. It is what we will explore in the masterclass. I hate that word. In the there were only 2 masters in music ever. One was Bach, and the other one was Carlos Kleiber. The rest of us are just trying to do our best. I didn't talk about agility, which I wanted to talk about, but we'll hit that stuff with fabulous live voices. See you at 2.